Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's album review is on Depeche Mode's 1986 Black Celebration album. Ooh, it's a big review. This is a big one. But first, I'd like to review a few albums. Owl and the Pussycat cover. Give this album a 9.5. Barbra Streisand is looking smoking. Man, just think back in the day, you couldn't say pregnant on TV in 1960. I think this came out in 68 or 66 or something like that. You couldn't say pregnant on TV, but you can dress like this on a cover of an album to sell some records. Man, sell some records. 9.8 on that. Also, Nancy Sinatra, Sugar. Probably give this one a 9.4. You know, not bad, not bad, not bad at all. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm here to relate. I'm here to review Black Celebration by Depeche Mode. I buy all kinds of vinyl just because of sometimes because of the cover of the art, the artwork. I do that all the time. I like buying. One of these days, I'll have to get serious and do a video just on cool album artwork, because that's one of the coolest things about buying vinyl is finding really cool artwork, and then you just buy it because of that, and you put it on the wall. I don't know if any of you guys do that, but I enjoy doing that, and then I mix them around every few weeks and put up some different ones. I have probably about, I don't know, maybe about 60 records on my wall in various rooms, just hallways and bathrooms and bedroom, and even in my kitchen. I have records on the wall, up on, framed. One of them I actually had to take down for this review, and that's Black Celebration. So this is my this is one of these. This is I have quite a few of these too. They started out in metal back in the early 90s. They used to be metal, and then they were actually glass, the screen, and then they sort of changed to this darker metal, and this is still glass. And then recently, in the last probably 8 or 10 years, they changed to sort of a plastic frame, and then a plastic front, which is fine. The price probably now. I remember it used to be like $15 per, and now you can get probably a 6-pack for like $8 each, like $40 or something like that. But man, it's a good thing they changed, because I don't know if any of you guys had the old ones, but they were a walking, uh, medical nightmare waiting to happen. The corners were like metal, so they were like super sharp. The glass on the screen would easily crack and possibly cut your finger. And then these things, they're not as bad as they used to be. They're still very sharp on the corners, but they used to be in the corner here, and they were like metal things, like, kind of like this, and you would bend them so they would fit in here in the corners. And those are some of the sharpest things that you'd ever come across. It was just like if you didn't get your finger cut on one of those at some point, you were pretty lucky. Those things were like walking first aid kit, booby traps. But yeah, this is a big review. I've been doing a lot of albums, and I was like, choosing which album. Some I did randomly lately, and then some of it just like, okay, I'll do that one. And then I started to realize I was kind of like, the ones that I was picking, I was sort of picking some ones that were sort of maybe in the middle or towards the lower amount, maybe lower rating of what I sort of perceived, and sort of worked my way up maybe to some better ones on some artists. And I didn't do that with Depeche Mode. I did pick, Songs of Faith and Devotion was the first record I covered by them, and I gave it a 74 out of 100, which is right in the middle, a very good album. There's some flaws with Songs of Faith and Devotion, in my opinion. But overall, it's obviously a very good album, no doubt. But I knew Black Celebration would definitely be higher. But um, I started looking at my ratings, and I was like 62, 64, 60, and I was starting to think maybe people think that I don't give any high scores. In fact, somebody had an issue and said that I should never do any Duran Duran reviews anymore because I rated their first album a 58, which is actually it's a pretty good album, under my scoring. Maybe they didn't read my scoring, but I'm gonna get that. I get that. Everybody has different opinions on their albums, and I feel like I can justify my reason why. I rated a Duran Duran, their debut album, a 58 out of 100 as a pretty good score. I feel like I can justify that all day. But everybody's got their own opinion. It's good, but that's what's fun about rating music and agreeing or disagreeing. I would hope. I mean, like when I watch review channels, like people review music, I find it kind of annoying when you go to a channel and they like everything. It seems kind of fake. Like they don't have any. A, they don't have an opinion, and then B, they don't have the experience to really give a negative opinion or a positive opinion and really say anything about it. Have you ever gone to those reaction channels and they just say, "Oh, this is great. This is great," and they have nothing else to say, nothing even positive. It's just, "This is great. I like this. This is great. This is great." I just have nothing to say. Like, so I would hope that like people that watch my channel, watch my reviews, appreciate that I'm being constructive and critiquing something and having an opinion on it and not saying everything is fantastic. Like, if you look at 90% of my reviews, I'm reviewing stuff that I like. So it's most of the time I'm saying it's a good review, a good album at least, if not a pretty good album. And I'm still working on that. I'm still thinking like there needs to be something on my rating scale in between okay and good. And so right now I'm playing with pretty good. It's like in between. Because like if in a conversation, if you said, "Hey, what do you think of that album?" And I would say, "Hey, it's okay." I feel like that's kind of negative. So I wanted to say it's pretty good. I feel like it should be something in between okay and good. So I'm kind of playing with that idea. I can't think of one that is in between okay and good. Because I got, below good and, below good and bad. I mean, below okay and bad, I feel like there should be something too. So I said, not very good or under par. If you really like the band, it's not comparative to something that's better in their discography. So I'm kind of playing with different things, and that's kind of the idea of doing these reviews. Anyways, it's not a perfect system. I'm trying to alter it, and hopefully it will be a perfect system by the end of doing more reviews. Because there's going to be certain records that are kind of push the guideline of some things, and then also I'm going to do a review of an album very shortly on another video with Tears for Fears album that I felt like I shouldn't even have maybe rated at all because it's just not my thing. And then that really kind of brought up another scenario, and then I dropped two other records where I didn't feel like a jazz record and also a sort of blue-eyed soul record, northern soul record, that I kind of was like, well, I'll do this review, and then I was like, maybe I'm not experienced enough in that genre, certainly like jazz, to really kind of give it any kind of experienced opinion. I mean, I could say I could say my opinion, but I don't think it'd be right to give an opinion if you don't have an experience in that. I mean, it's different. I mean, you can still do it and it'd be fine, but I'm trying to do a little bit more in depth reviews and if I did reviews on everything, you're like, well, you can't be really good at everything. Like everybody has their their genres that they specialize in, I think, for the most part. And I think I'm still pretty well rounded with industrial. I mean, a lot, well, actually, a lot of electronic genres, from ambient to trance to techno to house to, jungle, hardcore, drone, glitch, IDM, ambient techno. And then there's really subgenres under that, like, you know what I mean, like acid house and, well, acid house is not a subgenre, but there's even there's tons of subgenres that I could get into on electronic music, but I feel like I'm pretty good on new wave and synth pop and industrial and EBM and dark wave, cold wave, you know, and then there are quite a few other genres, and then so I don't want to like go into like some other genres where I don't have too much experience and give a rating. I think it'd be kind of, I don't know. I don't know if it'd be right. But that's something I'm kind of running into, and that may change. I may start doing some reviews of stuff that I wouldn't normally do. We'll see what happens. But this is my. I don't expect everybody to agree with my rating. I mean, that's art is subjective, right? So it'd be sad if everybody agreed with me or I agreed with everybody else on everybody's review. I'm trying to take a little bit more in depth look at certain things, and I think this will be a good example of my, hopefully, my perspective on this album. And hopefully, because I think everybody for the most part would agree this is a great album. And I definitely agree that this is a great album too. But how great is it? So we'll jump right into that. So this is oh my God, what was this record? Is their second, third, fourth? This is their fifth record. This is Depeche Mode's fifth record. I got into Depeche Mode probably around '83 when I was 7 years old. I remember seeing Everything Counts video. Loved that track, and then the first cassette I ever got, my oldest sister bought me for my 9th birthday. Catching Up with Depeche Mode, and in 1985 when I turned 9. So I was primed and ready for Black Celebration when it came out when I was 10 years old, and I was all about it. I still really like the album in so many ways, and that's kind of the background. So I was there from the beginning for this album, and it'll be 39 years next year, 40 years. It came out in 2 years. And so it's nice to look back 38, 39, 40 years back and see how it's held, over time. And that's what's interesting about doing a review on it. So there's 10 tracks on here. I guess we'll jump right into it. So Black Celebration. Wow, this is a big review. Black Celebration has actually grown on me over the years. I think probably if you had asked me maybe 20 years ago, I probably would have said, I give it a 3.5 stars. Probably very good track, but it's grown on me, and I think that's a good sign in a classic album that you really like, if the songs even grow over time. And maybe not even your best songs, but I tell you what, like a perfect example is Disintegration by The Cure. Probably one of my all-time favorite records for sure. I'm looking forward to reviewing that sometime. That'll be a big review to see what score that I would give that. But Close Down, it's kind of a short track on Disintegration. Not necessarily a single or maybe even a secondary track by most people. I think if most people had to rate the album tracks in favorite from least to favorite, it would probably be near the bottom. I would suggest, but I would guess. But Close Down has become, I wouldn't say one of my favorites, but I like underdog songs on albums, and in some ways over the years it's kind of grown into where I really love that song, and I think that's a good example of a great album, a legendary album, classic album, where maybe even the lesser tracks get better over time, and then you start liking those even more so than some of the singles or some of the other songs, though, I think that, because you go through periods of albums, of classic albums, I think, where certain songs are your favorite of the album. It's not always you're like, okay, these are my two favorites. Sometimes they might change, and I think that kind of is a good sign that that album is even better because songs are growing on you over time. Like I would say my personal favorite is Same Deep Water as You and Fascination Street for different reasons. Those are probably my two favorite songs. But I know that Fascination Street I wouldn't necessarily rate the highest. There's different reasons for that, but just to kind of give you an example of like how songs grow on, and Black Celebration, I feel like, I gave it 4.25 stars. Just a classic song. But it's grown on me over the time. If I had to rate my top 20 Depeche Mode songs, I don't think Black Celebration would be on there. That's how many good songs Depeche Mode has. But it's grown on me over time, so I would feel like it might be getting close to being in the top 20 now, when probably 30 years ago it wasn't even my top 30. You know, if I did like a top 50 on their songs. The first opportunity for the album, the second track, "Fly on the Windscreen." This is the final version. Now this is an interesting. I don't necessarily like this version as much as the version that's on Catching Up with Depeche Mode. But I love the beat. I love the main melody. It's surprisingly a funky track. Like "Fly on the Windscreen" is a funky track. Like it's cool that they did that remix, and I always really liked the remix on the Songs of Faith and Devotion tour. The remix of "Fly on the Windscreen." I always thought that was really cool. I'm sure Alan Wilder was playing around the studio and did that remix, probably with Flood. But that's a really cool remix. But this song was already on another album. It was on a greatest hits album, and then they put it on this album. I don't know how I feel about it. I've never really thought about it. And then I was playing the album. I was playing this album, and I was like, oh yeah, "Fly on the Windscreen" was already released. So should I take off a point, or two because it's already been released? Like it's, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of, I feel like that's kind of a knock on the first knock on this album. Having said that, I still love the melody, the sound effects, the breathing, and the mechanical sound effects are really cool. But again, it's not my favorite version. It's the ending of this version. It's not as strong as the 81 to 85 Catching Up with Depeche Mode. Because of that reason, it's not my favorite version, and because it's already been released, I docked it a half a point. I would give "Fly on the Windscreen" 4 stars all day, but I gave it a 3.5 for this album because it's already been released before, and I think this is a lesser version. So I gave it a 3.5 stars. Still a very good track for sure. Wow, "Question of Lust." It has to be one of Martin Gore's best songs. It's just. Sometimes people feel like "Somebody" is his favorite song. I mean, I'm for sure "Home" is up there on best Martin Gore sung songs. The Things You Said is certainly one of my favorite ones he's done. "A Question of Love" has to be up there. I remember when it came out, my sister used to play it all the time, hours upon hours. Like it's just. I mean, it's just branded in my brain. But I really love the singing. Martin Gore's singing on here. The bells, like if you've seen the video when they do the bells, it's really cool. The melody, everything. It's almost like if you give it your full attention, like it's really hard not to get goosebumps when you listen to "Question of Lust," like every time. It's just a magic song. I don't know. I just got to it and I was like, well, I wonder what I'm going to give this track. And then I was listening to it and I was just like, how can you deny it? It's like an all-time classic. I gave it 5 stars. In some ways, it's a perfect track. I have to say it's a perfect track. Now the second crux of the album as a whole. So the album has 4 tracks that are under 3 minutes. I would say not all of them you're going to like. It's close. So the first track is "Sometimes." It's pretty good. I like the echoes. I do like these type of songs that he did in the 80s versus nowadays, like Martin Gore. But sometimes I gave 2 stars. It doesn't matter two. I gave 2.5 stars. I like It Doesn't Matter Two. Fast forwarding a little bit to the end of the album, just to make this point. World of Nothing. The chorus is good. Nice production overall. It's close to being a very good song. I got 2 3/4 stars. And then Dressed in Black is my favorite of the 4 short songs. I gave it 3.5 stars. So, if you look at those songs individually and then collectively, they're 4 short songs out of 10 songs. So technically you take those out and there's 6 full songs, 4 songs that are kind of short. And again, you may like 2 of the 4 songs, you may like 3 of the songs, you may like 4 of the 4 songs. I think all 4 of them are good songs, for sure. I think 1 of the 4 is very good. But I don't know if everybody would say all 4 are very good or all 4 are great. Like, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes I think it's a good song, but it's my least favorite of the 4. Like, it's, not even 2 minutes. I think it's a good track, but it's hard to say it's a great track, let alone a very good track. A very good track, let alone a great track. So then going back into the songs, like A Question of Time, track number 6. Definitely a strong driving song. It's got a good hook, and that hook is really kind of, I think, I've never been a big fan of Question of Time. I do respect it for what it is in their discography. I understand there's a lot of people that like the song. I think it's a little bit too one note. But it is a really good song. I've just never been a huge favorite of it, but again, I do respect it. I give it 3.25 stars, so I find it a very good track still. It's just, I think some people would give it like 4 stars and say it's a great track, but I'm not there on that. Stripped, man, what a great, awesome track. Stripped is probably would vie for my favorite Depeche Mode song of all time. Like, it's just classic, classic, classic. I love the engine effects. Dave singing is really, really good in it. The haunting kind of drone sound of the car, and the keyboard sound along with it. It's sort of an oriental sound. Like, when you think about it, the keyboard is kind of oriental. If you really kind of like, what kind of sound is that? It kind of has like a light Japanese kind of oriental sound to it. But it's one of the best keyboard and chorus combinations I can, I probably have to file it away and come across. And if I ever hear about anything has a great keyboard and a chorus combination as powerful and as great as Stripped, it's also got a cool beat. It's one of the best keyboard sounds of all time, the main melody, in my opinion. It's layered really well. Martin Gore singing in the background towards the end, I think, raises the level of the track even further. I think it's a perfect track. I got 5 stars. So we got an album. This is the first album I've run into with 2 5-star tracks. 2 perfect tracks. Stripped and Question of Lost. Amazing songs. Track number 8, Here's the House. This is kind of an underrated song, I feel like, on the album. It's catchy. It does sound a little bit like a B-side song. I don't know if it's strong enough to be on the album in some ways. But then when you get to the chorus and the keyboard and the melody, it's so catchy. And then Gore singing along at the end, the way he does is awesome as well. And in fact, after you listen to it, it sort of becomes a little underrated in some ways as well. So is it a well composed song? It's a little bit more basic than some of the other songs, but I can see why they added it because the chorus is great. The end of the song is great. The melody's great. I got it really close to 4 stars. I got 3 3/4 stars. Just an awesome track. And again, World Full of Nothing. 2 3/4 stars, and then Dressed in Black 3.5 stars. So yeah, let's look at the overall here. So the good of the album, I really feel like the band really kind of captured their direction on this particular album. When you look at like, you know, obviously, Speak and Spell is its own album. Broken Frame is kind of, they're kind of losing Vince Gill, starting fresh. New Martin Gore starting to write songs. Alan Wilder's just getting there, right? He doesn't, he's kind of the new guy. He's only been there for a few months, probably when they started recording this album. Dave really hasn't come into his own. Andrew's still, hanging out watching football or something like that. So, the band is kind of fresh there, so that's understandable as kind of a miss in their category. Some say it's probably their weakest album. Catching Up, Construction of Time has some moments. It's kind of hit or miss, but it's showing the potential of the band. Some Great Reward kind of fine-tuned and kind of brought out, I think, the deeper side of Depeche Mode. And then this Black Celebration took it to the next level, right? So they kind of took all of what they've done and sort of pieced it together and made their first great album. So I really like that for this album for that reason. Plus, it's complete with many classic tracks. I talked about Stripped, Black Celebration, and Question of Lust are three classic tracks for the band. David Gahan's singing is really kind of coming into his own here. He's a little bit stronger. He's perfectly fitting the sound. You got to like their darker edge on this album than the previous albums as well. Martin Gore, some of his strongest songs he's ever written. He's definitely coming into his own on this album, and probably even Some Great Ward as well. Alan Wilder, this is really his coming out party, in my opinion. They're kind of, before he was sort of, a member of the band, sort of doing sound effects and stuff like this. By this time, he's their go-to guy in the theater, in the studio. So much so that Daniel Miller is not around for the next album, really, right? He's kind of overseeing, but not really overseeing. They got Dave Bass come on and they got Alan Wilder, and they got Flood for Music for the Masses, and then going forward. So Alan Wilder really became the studio guy on this album. And sure, Daniel Miller got the guys to, start making some different sounds, and that's obviously well documented that they went around and recorded some different sounds and took those into the studios and sampled them. And, but Alan Wilder was really the guy who really kind of took the reins on the studio, really making the most of the equipment they have. One little side note on this, like, if you hear a lot of electronic music around like 1986 through 89 that has kind of like raw beats like this, they haven't aged that well. But this one has, and that's kind of a testament to the band. This album certainly has a timeless sound to it, even though it's really raw. There is a little bit of me that feels like there could be a little bit more atmosphere in the album, but it's so raw. The songs are so raw and timeless that I don't think I would, it's just a question mark. I wouldn't say for sure it needs more atmosphere, but that kind of lends to the quality of them doing the most with the equipment that they have. I talked about Daniel Miller's involvement. Gareth Jones is producing, so he's a really strong producer as well. It's another good thing about the album. So then, as far as the opportunities for the album, I talked about those four. I talked about Fly on the Windscreen being released already, and it being a lesser version, in my opinion. And then the four shorter songs, right? I don't think anybody really loves all four of them, unless you maybe don't have a strong opinion. In my opinion, Because there's parts of the four slow songs, you know, you may not like one or two. Um, you know, again, I think they're all good tracks, but you know, they are the weaker songs of the album. The four shorter songs are, I think most people would agree, compared to the six main songs, that the four short songs are the weaker songs on the album. Even if you love Dressed in Black, which is my favorite of the ones, it's still lesser than Stripped. It's still lesser than Here's the House. Close, but it's still less. It's lesser than A Question of Lust. It's better, lesser than Black Celebration. Fly on the Windscreen's better. A Question of Time's better. You know, so all four of the shorter tracks are the weaker songs on the album. I don't think many people would disagree with that. Um, so if you take out the four short tracks, you have six excellent tracks overall. You know, when I add up the stars for the album, 39 stars, really strong, from 10 songs. Um, actually, this is. I'm sorry. This is wrong. This is wrong here. I put it divided by 10. It's actually. Yeah, yeah. So. Hmm. Sorry. This is. My numbers are a little off here. I might have the scoring wrong. Anyways, I might have the total scoring wrong. But if you take out those, okay, here's I made a mistake. So if you take those four songs, I have 10 and a quarter stars for those four tracks, divided by four tracks, it's 2.56. If I take the remaining 28, 28 stars divided by six in the other one, it's well over a four. So the other six tracks are averaging well over a four. And then the other four are in between, or around 2.5. So you can see how it hurts the album. But when I look at the overall, you know, I can kind of subtract them, but they are part of the album, right? So, um, you know, I got the overall is 39 stars divided by 10 songs, 3.90. So it's it's right close to 80. 3.90. Excuse me, that's on the high side of 80. So again, you know, I can't. I think that works perfectly for the score. You know, I got the album at 88 out of 100. It is super close to being an all-time classic. It's a Again, when you look at my 80s, 80 to 89 is a genre classic. So within new wave, within dark wave, or whatever genre you say this, Black Celebration is that. It's a classic album. Um, is it on the level of Violator and a legendary classic, regardless of genre? I'd say I'd be okay with saying no. You know, it's not as good as Violator. You know, and I haven't scored Violator yet, but I'm assuming Violator will be in the 90s. Um, you know, just after reviewing this, because this album has four songs that are below 4 stars. You know, and I don't Depeche Mode. I don't On Violator. I don't think, probably the only song, there's maybe one or two star songs of the nine that are under 4 stars. Maybe Blue Dress and maybe Sweetest Perfection. The rest are probably all over 4 stars. And even Sweetest Perfection and Blue Dress are going to be close to 4 stars. So yeah, this album isn't as good as Violator. It's you know, I know that kind of might hurt some longtime fans of Black Celebration. You know, of veteran fans like myself. You know, because the albums are really close though. But you know, the four slow songs, you know, the short songs kind of. And again, Flying Windscreen was released again as well. But you know, that's my critique on the album. But I mean, just an amazing album. I mean, just just in many ways, a groundbreaking album for the band and the scene, and just a classic album in any ways. So with the 88 out of 100, this becomes my highest rated album to date. That's non-electronic. Um, And meaning non-electronic is obviously it's an electronic album, but um, my techno and ambient and the subgenres of electronic music are separate. Um, I did rate a couple things in the at 90 and 91, the Autech album and the Aphex Twin album so far that are above 88. But Black Celebration, wow, just an amazing album. 88. My top three songs are Stripped, Question of Lust, and Black Celebration. Um, yeah, just curious, what are your favorite three tracks? And do you have any opinion on my rating? Do you feel like I'm being a little harsh? Do you think it should be a 90? But double check how I do my scoring and see if you think it's an all-time classic, regardless of genre. Like, do you think it's better than Violator? You know, I won't say for sure until I do Violator. Because listening to this album, even with those four, um, I think the six tracks on Black Celebration, you compare it to the top six tracks of Violator, it's probably neck and neck. Violator has one less track, so that kind of hurts it a little bit. Four tracks versus three, but those four tracks are short, right? And then those other three tracks are still pretty solid. And knowing Sweetest Perfection and Blue Dress, that whatever that seventh song you're choosing is the least light track from Depeche Mode is really going to be a lot stronger than the Depeche Mode track 7 is on Black Celebration. That's for sure. I think for me it might even be like Personal Jesus would be my seventh favorite song on Violator. Um, because World of My Eyes is up there, Policy of Truth's up there, Halo's better, Enjoy the Silence is better, and I really love Clean and Waiting for the Night. So, could Personal Jesus be the seventh best song on Violator? That's how strong Violator is. Um, Here, the seventh strongest track for me on this album is World Full of Nothing, or It Doesn't Matter Too. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's Violator is strong over more tracks than Black Celebration, and that's why, in my opinion, it kind of gets the edge. Plus, again, Fly in the Windscreen was already released before, so and it's a lesser version, in my opinion. But yeah, that's my overall view on Depeche Mode's 1986 Black Celebration album. Amazing album, 88 out of 100. I gotta bow down to it. All right, amazing album.